y'all. Dawn with 7 Acres Homestead here today. I did want to talk to you guys a little bit today about why we raise chickens on our homestead. So, there is a reason why chickens are called the gateway animal to homesteading. And I'm going to give you kind of the lowdown on why that is probably the very first animal that most homesteaders tend to run to. So, reason number one is that chickens are inexpensive. They are not super expensive to buy, especially if you buy them as chicks and raise them up to be meat chickens or egg producers. You can buy chicks for $2, $3, $4, $5 a chick, depending on the time of year and who you have around you that's selling them. Even if you wait and buy them as pullets, right now in the market here in 2023, pullets are running around $25. Sometimes you can get them for $20, sometimes you can get them for $30. But again, shop around in your area, and again, it depends on the time of year. So they are an inexpensive animal to get started with. If something happens and you lose a chicken, you are not losing your shirt. So, one of the main reasons people like chickens on the homestead is they are a perpetual source of food. So those chickens are going to lay eggs pretty regularly, not every single day. That's a thing that some people think a chicken's going to lay an egg every single day, and that's not necessarily true. Some lay more than others. You need to check with the type of breed that you're looking at and see how many eggs they lay. We tend to go for chickens that are dual-purpose chickens, so they are for meat or for eggs. And many of the chickens that we go with lay anywhere from 200 to 300 eggs a year. So don't freak out if you get chickens and they don't lay an egg every single day, because it's not ever going to happen. But it is a perpetual source of food. As long as you feed them and you water them and you keep them safe, they are going to provide you some type of food every single week. So, reason number three that people like to raise chickens on the homestead is that they are easy to breed. They are easy to make more chickens. All you need is a little incubator, and I know there's people that are going to say, oh yeah, you just stick them under a broody mama and she's going to hatch out those chicks for you. Let me tell you, today's chickens are not your grandma's chickens. The broodiness has been bred out of a lot of them. Sometimes you're lucky enough that you have a broody mama that will actually sit on them for the entire 3 weeks to hatch those chicks. And if you have that, that is great. That is fantastic. Do not get rid of that mama. You keep a hold of her. We have tried, and we've had broody mamas that have sat on the eggs, and we thought, okay, here we go. This is our moment to shine. This is when we're going to have a mama that's going to raise some babies for us. And sometimes a week, 2 weeks later, they just give up. They get up and they walk off and just leave those eggs sitting there. So we use an incubator to multiply our chickens. And you can get all kinds of incubators online. I will put a couple of links in the description box to a couple of the ones that we have used that have worked really, really well. I will also put a link in the description box to the one that we have now, which is pretty good sized. It's a big one, and it holds up to 270 eggs at once. So I'll put links to all of those in there so you guys can look at the different price points and the different sizes, and you can take a look at that and decide what's going to work best for you and your homestead and the size and the amount of chickens that you want to hatch at one time. Okay. So, reason number four that we raise chickens on the homestead is obviously for meat. Meat chickens tend to be a heavier chicken that maybe grows out a little bit faster, And there are many, many types of chickens for that purpose. You've got Cornish cross, which is probably the most well-known. That's the type of chicken meat you're probably going to get when you buy chicken in the grocery store. There are Red Rangers, which are another breed of chicken that raises pretty quickly and has pretty good size birds. Buff Orpingtons are another one that really fill out really nice and get pretty big. But there's a lot of different breeds out there that you can raise for meat chickens. Now, when it comes to processing those chickens, on our farm, we choose to have those processed by a USDA certified processor. And the reason we do that is we want to make sure that we're able to sell those chickens. So one thing that a lot of homesteads do is they raise a bigger amount of chickens than they know their family's going to need. They sell a few of those off, and that pays for their meat chickens for their family. So in that case, you would end up with free chicken to feed your family. You can process chickens on your farm yourself. There is no law that says you can't do that as long as you're not selling it to others. If it is for you and your family, then you are perfectly able to do that. The one thing I would check with is the regulations in your state or your area that you live in, and just make sure that you know what you can and cannot do, especially when it comes to selling the processed chickens to others. Now, the one thing I want to say about raising chickens for meat is do not expect the chickens to be any cheaper for you than what you're going to get at the grocery store. And I'm going to tell you why. The chickens at the grocery store are mass-produced. They're not very healthy. They're fed the least amount of anything that they can possibly give them. Many of them, unless they are labeled as free-range or pasture-raised, then they are going to be kept in a little tiny space. They're not going to get a bunch of sunshine. They're not going to get a bunch of fresh air. And they're probably going to be living in a big pile of their own poop. So this is why chicken at the store tends to be fairly reasonable. So when you raise chickens the right way for meat, you are going to spend more on feed, and you're going to spend money on the processing and all of that. So don't expect your chickens that you raise yourself for meat for your family to be any cheaper than it would be if you buy it at the grocery store. But it is a whole heck of a lot healthier for you and your family. Plus, you know what's in it. No preservatives, no additives, no salt water injected in there to make them way heavier at the scale. And it is definitely worth the time and the effort and the money that it takes to raise them. So, the last reason that we like to raise chickens on our homestead is because it does not require a huge amount of infrastructure. Yes, you are going to need a coop of some type. It can be something that you build yourself. It can be something you buy someplace. It can be a shed that you go buy and convert into a chicken coop. Or if you already have a little shed on your property that you're not really using for anything else, it is very easy to convert into a coop. If you are not going to be pasturing your chickens, which is what we do, then you will need what is known as a chicken run, and it's a little area around their coop that is fenced in so that they can get out and get some fresh air and sunshine, scratch for some bugs, that type of thing. You also want to typically feed and water your chickens outside the coop. You don't want them eating and drinking inside the coop. There's a lot of reasons for that, and that's a whole nother video to go into. But so you are going to need a coop, and you may need a little run area for them to be able to get out in where they're safe. Now, we pasture ours, which means a lot of different things about the difference between free-ranging and pasturing. Free-ranging, all that means is that those chickens have more than a commercial chicken would have as far as space to move around in. It does not mean that they are running loose. Pasture-raised, however, does. That means that you let your chickens out, and they have entire run of your property, run of your yard. Depending on how big your property is, they usually stay within a certain little area. They usually don't go too far out because they're creatures of habit, and they know where their home is, which is the coop, and they want to stay within a certain distance of the coop. But Pasturing your chickens means that they are out there eating all kinds of little leaves and grass and plants and bugs, and they're scratching up worms, and they're finding little grubs, and your chickens are a whole lot healthier. They get a lot of extra protein. Doesn't mean you don't have to feed them. You still need to feed them some type of grain or all stock or chicken feed as well, but you don't have to feed them as much of that because they really like going out into the yard and scratching up and eating whatever they find out there. So as far as infrastructure goes, if you have a neighbor that has a mean dog and you want to make sure that that mean dog can't get your chickens, by all means, do the run. If they have a run and they have a coop to go in at night where they can roost and feel safe when they sleep, that's really all you're going to have to have. That's okay. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully some of the things that I told you about having chickens either on your homestead or in your backyard has been helpful. Please feel free to put any questions in the comment section or email us. Our email is listed in the description box. And I appreciate you guys being here for us, and hopefully we can be here for y'all too. And we will see you on the next video. Bye guys.